Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron. We're back in the shop and we're going to be working on the K30, K35, I don't know, whatever it is. This white truck here with the flatbed on it, we're going to be working on that. So, as you saw in the last video, or if you didn't see the last video, check it out. We pulled this tired old motor out of it. See, no motor. And we got a built 383 right here that we're going to be stuffing in it today. So the 383 was built, a guy built it for his like mud buggy. It's got very low run time on it. It's been dynoed, it's solid, and it came with a ton of parts. It's getting a Holley Sniper EFI, MSD ignition box. We'll go through it all as we do it, but I'm excited about it, and I've decided I want to try to finish this truck this week. It's Wednesday morning. I got to get the motor ready, get it back in, and I got to rewire everything to work with all the new stuff and see if we can get it going. But I'm going to try to have it done this week, and I'm going to video all of it for you guys. So I'm going to get that motor drug out of the corner. I'm going to get it up on the cherry picker and out where I can actually do something with it, and then we'll get started. All right, got the motor over here hanging on the cherry picker, and I'm getting everything ready to put it in. I already put the flywheel on because I noticed this was a one-piece rear main motor, and I didn't know, I couldn't remember if I had looked and saw that it was a one-piece rear main motor before I ordered the flywheel. So when I held it up there to make sure it was right, and it was, I went ahead and bolted it on, red Loctite, torqued. So that's all good to go. So now I just got to put the clutch on. We'll pull the motor mounts off the motor that came out, stick them on. And aside from that, we should have everything else that we need to go ahead and put it in. It's got all the brackets on the front, has a serpentine belt set up. And this motor's got all really good stuff on it. It's nicely done. So we're going to, I'll put the clutch and stuff on, and then we'll start getting this motor set in here. And if you're watching the video, do me a favor. Go comment, like, and subscribe if you're not. It really helps me out and lets me continue doing this stuff, so I really appreciate it. But we're going to get set up and we'll finish getting this motor together so we can set it in. Just real quick, a little tip. If you guys don't already know this, same thing with brake drums or anything like that. These things come with a coating, like not a coating, but like an oil on them. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they're really nasty. And if you leave that on there, that clutch is going to slip and you're going to burn it up and glaze it over before you ever really even start using it. So you always want to make sure you take some kind of brake parts cleaner or something like that and just wipe this down really good. You'll see it's shiny and stuff now. Then once you clean it, it'll be a dull metal finish look. So just make sure you clean it really good, spray it on there good, wipe it down really good, and get that coating off of there so we don't burn up brand new clutches. I mean, you can see what it's taken off of there. That should be good enough. It doesn't feel oily anymore. It doesn't look oily anymore. So should be fine. Okay, I'm going to go over this clutch install somewhat thoroughly because I don't think I've ever really done one on the channel. And just in case anybody wants to put a clutch in something, you'll kind of have an idea what you're doing. It's called a pilot bushing or a pilot bearing. This one's actually a bearing style. It's got roller bearings down in there. And then this side has a seal. So I read in the instructions, the seal side goes towards the transmission. So it's going to go in here like this, and it goes right in the back of the crank. And the way I install them, I went and got a socket that's just slightly smaller than the diameter of the bearing. And we'll set it in there, get it straight, and then we'll set the socket against it. And I'll just take my hammer and lightly tap it in. You don't want to beat on it, just want to tap it in there. It should be a little hard to go in because it holds itself in there, but it shouldn't be super hard. If you're happening to beat on it to get it in there, you need to find a way to get it back out and clean this up. This one's pretty clean, so I think it'll be fine. But this is the bearing style. They also have a bushing style that's basically the same thing as this. It's just a brass bushing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in here.
You don't want to wipe it out first?
No, it's fine. Get that started in there. And then when you're putting this in, as you notice, I'm not beating on it, I'm just tapping it. But as you're putting it in, it's going to get to a spot and it's going to bottom out. So you just drive it in there until it doesn't go anymore. Alright, it's flush. It doesn't seem to be moving anymore, so that should be good. It says in the instructions to smear a little bit of grease in that bearing before you install the transmission in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit in there right now, and then we'll put the clutch on. Alright, nothing special or fancy, just high temp grease. I'm going to take a small amount, get in there where I'm on the bearings. Alright, got some grease in there. Now we'll grab our clutch and put it on. Okay, the owner of the truck, like I said, he hauls a big heavy trailer with this all the time. So he got a heavy duty center force clutch kit for it. So I'm going to do the brake cleaner. My dad's here helping me again. I'm going to do the same thing to the pressure plate that I did to the flywheel. And just clean the surface off on it. Make sure you don't have a bunch of oil on it that's going to glaze the clutch over. It doesn't seem to, and it's got a little bit of rust on it, but I'm just doing it just to be safe. So get that nice and clean. I got my bolts ready. Okay, this is a clutch alignment tool. Usually comes in the kit with the clutch. It's going to go in that pilot bearing and hold it. And if you look on your clutch, whether it be a sticker or if it's laser engraved in it or whatever, it's always going to say flywheel side. They usually say flywheel side. I've never had one that said pressure plate side, but anyways. So you put that in there so that the flywheel side's up against the flywheel. Have your pressure plate on it, and get that in there, and get that lined up. And then I'm just gonna attempt to loosely start all the bolts. You want to try to keep this centered, the alignment tool centered in your pressure plate. And if you do everything right, you get it on the first time. If you do it like I do, it usually takes about 3. But just going to go around and kind of evenly snug these up. Okay, this is really crucial if you're doing it like I'm doing it, where you leave the transmission and the bell housing and everything in the truck and try to get the motor back in it. But you see how easy that slides in and out of there? There's no bind on it, no nothing, it's just nice and loose. That's what you want. If there's any restriction at all trying to put this alignment tool in and out once you get the pressure plate bolted on, you want to loosen all your bolts back up, wiggle it around to where that's nice and free all the way into the pilot bearing and everything. So we got it where we need it. First try, that's the first. We'll go back, make sure it's tight. Alright, clutch is on there nice and tight. So that's ready to go in. I think the only thing that we have left to do to put this motor in is take the clamshells off of the motor mounts off of the other block, put them on this block, and then we'll be able to set it in. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch those over real quick, and we'll get ready to set the motor in. Alright, got the motor mounts put on the new motor. You saw the clutch and pilot bushing and everything's in. I got the new motor mounts down here in the frame, and I put the new throwout bearing that came with the clutch kit in there. So we're ready. We're going to get this motor lifted up, stab it down in the hole, and I'll set it up so you guys can watch. Alright, motor's in. Me and my dad took a break, went and got some lunch. He headed back to the house, to his house, to relax for a little bit. You know, when you start getting old, you can't really hang all day. I'm just teasing. I appreciate my dad helping me out a lot. He really does what he needs to do to help me get done, and I really appreciate it. But motor's in. We decided I was gonna switch over and run a mechanical water pump, but this motor has this serpentine setup on it, and we don't have a pulley for the water pump. So for now, at least, we're just gonna leave the electric pump on there, and I'm gonna wire in electric fans, and so that all should be easy. It's just gonna run 2 belts. It's gonna have one from here to the power steering pump, one from here to the alternator. That'll be it. I'll wire the water pump in through the ignition, so whenever you turn the key on, the water pump's turning. And yeah, so this motor, like I said, was in like a mud buggy. It came with these center dump headers and this Y pipe that I thought might work, and it came with these other headers, but these are like a stock car modified header where they come straight out off the head and then like dump down the side. So I tried putting the straight down ones on just to see if they were going to work, because like I said, we're trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time for the guy. And the passenger side one bolts on and clears fine. The driver's side one hits the motor mount, and there's nothing I can do to make it work. So we're going to go back with the stock header style truck manifolds that were on the old motor, and it's got 2.5-inch exhaust through single chamber mufflers that were already on here, so it'll flow perfectly fine for this motor, and we don't have to wait for headers to come in the mail or whatever. So that's going to be that. I got motor mount, I might have already said this, I don't remember, but I got motor mount bolts in and tight. I got all the bell housing bolts in and tight. The motor is in secured. I'm going to go ahead and throw the starter on and get it wired up, and then I'll start putting those exhaust manifolds back on, hooking the exhaust back up, and then my buddy that owns the truck is going to Sibley's to get a O2 sensor bung, so I can drill a hole and weld it in the exhaust pipe that's already down there, so we can put the O2 sensor for the sniper in. And yeah, I set the sniper throttle body on there just for one, to keep anything from falling down in the motor. 2, it's got to be on there anyways, so I'm kind of trying to get stuff hooked up and out of my way. But just like all the other snipers I've done, if I use this bracket, it's the throttle pedal is to the floor right now, the way this is. So if I come all the way forward to where the pedal's up in its normal resting position, you can see where that nut is right here, and how far forward the end of that cable is from here to there. So I've never tried this before, but what I think I'm gonna try is I'm gonna measure that distance, and then I'm gonna come off of this stud back here. I'm gonna move this bracket back like so, and put a piece of thick flat bar in there that should be rigid enough to hold it. And that way we'll get full throttle, and I don't have to build an extension off of this. You can buy the extensions. If you go back in the old videos on long step, I built an extension to go on this for this reason, but I think I'm just gonna try to space this back, and it should still be fine. So I'm gonna take a measurement. I'll make a little bracket to go on there, and we'll see how it works out. But that's the next thing I'm gonna do, because I'm tired of laying on my back underneath this thing at the moment. So I'm gonna try to get that throttle cable working, and then I wanna get, my goal for today is to get all the hard bolt-on parts back in. So radiator, get the exhaust hooked up, get the distributor in, I want to mount the MSD box and the coil somewhere. And if there's anything else I'm forgetting, I want to get that into. But that way I can come in tomorrow. I got to wire electric fans. I got to wire the electric water pump. I got to wire the sniper system in. So basically I can come in tomorrow and just do the wiring. And then once the wiring's done, fire this thing up, time it, and see what it does. So I'm going to start making that bracket for that throttle cable, and we'll go from there. Alright, I got my little bracket adapter made there. I used a piece of like 3/8 plate, and you can't really see it, but I ground half of it away here where it bolted on here to give me a couple more threads for my bolt. And so if it gets any tension pulling on it, it sits against the throttle body and stops, so it can't move back and forth. And then I took my old carburetor bracket for the throttle and I trimmed it down, cut all the extra BS off of it, and then bolted it to this end. So it hooks around this end, and it's got a little notch that grabs right there, so it can't go either way on that bracket. So neither one of those brackets can move. I don't have anybody here to help me like hold the camera while I step on the throttle pedal or anything, but actually I did it myself, and if I can do it and I can see it, I should be able to show you guys. So I got full range on my pedal. And everything moves smoothly. So another thing checked off the list that I never made. So next thing I think I'm gonna do, because it's easy and quick, is throw the radiator back in, and I gotta get a fan mounted on it because we're gonna run an electric fan. So yeah, I'll get some stuff together. I'll throw the radiator back in. All right, well, I've been absolutely terrible about filming on this project. I talked to him today and he asked me if I could have it done by Saturday because he's got a big job that he needs it on. So I'm kind of pushing myself to make sure I get it done and getting parts here that we need and whatnot. So haven't been the greatest about filming, but I am getting quite a bit of work done. Yeah, I've got the alternators all hooked up, ready to go. Temperature sender for the gauge inside is good to go. And I was gonna film putting the exhaust manifolds on, but I didn't. And there they are. Spark plugs are in. This manifold's on. Spark plugs are in. Starter's in. All hooked up. It's done, ready to go. What else have I got done? I don't even remember. I've been tinkering with stuff, doing stuff, getting stuff done. I'm waiting to put the radiator in until he gets here because we decided to run electric fans on it since we're not changing the water pump. And so he's coming. He ran to town to get fans for me to help speed up the process. So waiting on them to get here, then I can stab the radiator in. I still have to go underneath and hook the exhaust up, but that should be easy peasy, just hooking it right back up where it unhooked, so no big deal. I still got to put the power steering pump on, but just not in a big hurry to do that. That's a 15-20 minute job. So I'm kind of getting down to where I can wire it. I'm gonna mount the MSD 6 box over here on the inner fender because I got to run my wiring harness over this way to connect it to the battery anyways. So that way I'll just run the harness over, hook all that up right there. I'll put my coil. I don't know where I'm going to put the coil yet, but I'll put it somewhere. Maybe up on the firewall maybe over there on the fender and just run a long coil wire. I don't know yet, but it's coming along. Things are going fairly smooth. So rather than showing you everything I'm doing, I think I'm just going to update you for the rest of today. And then when I come over tomorrow and do the wiring and everything, I'll be a little more in-depth on that and show you guys a little more what I'm doing. I still have to plumb fuel lines too. I keep forgetting about that. Fuel lines need to be plumbed. So yeah, we just keep doing what we're doing and try to get this thing done. All right, I'm back. It's the next morning. I got quite a bit more work done last night, but I didn't film anything. The owner of the truck came over and brought me some more of the parts that I was waiting on. And I was just kind of working and talking and all that, but we made some changes again. I took off some stuff I already had done again, but I made a lot of headway. Things are looking good, so I'll go ahead and show you. We've finally decided after all to go with a stock style water pump instead of the electric one, because I went to hook up the heater core and realized there wasn't anywhere to hook the heater core up. So if we ran the electric pump, he wasn't going to be able to have any heat, and that wasn't going to work. So I went ahead and put the stock water pump and all the stock accessories from the other motor on here. So I got all that done. I got a couple things moved around so I could hook up hoses. I put the stock water neck on, and he brought me the fans so I can hook them up to the radiator, get the radiator back in. He brought me a O2 sensor bung so I can drill into that exhaust pipe down there and weld that in so we can run our O2 sensor. And yeah, got quite a bit done. Still got quite a bit to do, so I'm going to keep going on it, and hopefully we can get it close, if not started today. So another thing, while he was here last night, I was talking to him, and I told him that I wanted to run the numbers on this motor that came out of the truck, because it looked to me like it had a small harmonic balancer on it. And I've done enough 350s, I just knew that didn't look like a standard 350 balancer. So while I was talking to him and working, he asked me how to look up the numbers, so I told him. We came over here and cleaned this off, and that block number is the 3970020. So we pulled up the small block Chevy casting numbers online, and it turns out that it's a 69 to 72 307. So I don't know who stuck it in or when it got stuck in, but that kind of explains why it seemed like it was down on power. Those little stock 307s aren't made to move a four-wheel drive with a 30-foot trailer behind it. So it did do the job right up until it didn't anymore. But so I guess we got a little 307 now, and that motor that we're putting in is going to be a lot bigger horsepower difference than I thought. So that 307 probably had about 150 horsepower. The motor we're putting in's got 500, 550. So yeah, it's going to be a big difference. I'm going to keep going, and I'll keep you guys in the loop as I go. All right, I got my fans all mounted up on the radiator here. And go ahead and get it tossed back in. Maybe. And I thought I had the top brackets over here, but I guess not. Alright, now we go. Radiator's installed. I just got to put the upper hose on, but I'm not going to do that until after I get the belts on. So next thing I'm going to do now is throw the belts on. I'll get that done real quick and then we'll move on. All right, well, got the belts on, got the upper radiator hose on, started filling it up with coolant, found a couple leaks, fixed those, went to lunch, came back, and kind of kept going and didn't film anything again. So belts are on, upper hose is on, all that stuff's in. I brought the motor up the top dead center, dropped the distributor in, I mounted my coil, hooked my spark plug wires up. I still got to kind of clean them up a little bit, but until I get done moving the distributor to time it, I don't want to tie anything up because I'll probably end up having to move stuff anyways. And then I started thinking about what I needed to do next and realized that it was time to make a punch list. If you guys know me, you know what that means. Punch list means we're getting close and I don't want to forget anything. So I did give the truck a name. I'm going to tell you about it before I turn the camera around because the name is up there on the list. But I named it Oxen. And a lot of people commented in the comments what the name should be, and I appreciate the suggestions. I don't know, none of them really stuck to me. And I was thinking about it, and all this truck does is be big and pull stuff. And what's big that its only real use is pulling stuff? An Oxen. So we named it Oxen. That's what it's gonna be. And here's our punch list. Oxen, put the dipstick in, hook up the oil pressure gauge, weld the O2 sensor bung in the exhaust pipe, run fuel lines and put the fuel pump in, mount the ignition box, do the wiring, put oil in it, hook up the rest of the exhaust, wire in the electric fans, and I forgot the most important thing. So I'm gonna go grab a marker real quick and then we'll write that on there. Got a brand new Sharpie. We'll come back over here. Boom, fire it up. That's the best part of any project. So I think I'm gonna mount the ignition box next. So we'll get set up and get that in there. And then we'll just keep working our way down the list and hopefully she'll be ready to start by the end of the day. Okay, I think I might have already mentioned I was gonna use these brackets, came with this motor and box and all that stuff, and they'll sit down on this inner fender halfway decent. So what I'm going to do is just take my box here and the brackets. I'm just going to mark it. And I'll go ahead and drill out these holes, and then we'll be able to mount our box. Alright, we got our holes drilled. And grab our box back over here and some bolts and throw this thing in here. Okay, got some hardware here. Okay. It's nice and sturdy. Should be just fine right there. So we'll cross that off the list. Move on to something else. Alright, well, it's Thursday evening. And I'm about wore out. I basically got everything underneath the truck done that needs to be done, except for the fuel lines. I've got my pre-filter, my pump, and my post-filter all put together. I got my fuel hose ready to go. We bought a whole kit from Summit. Sniper EFI kit comes with the pump, the filters, all the fittings, everything you need. Not sponsored, just a good deal, a good package. So we bought it. But yeah, I feel good about being able to finish the truck tomorrow and firing it up and getting it back to him so he can have it Saturday. I've already got oil in it. I've already got coolant in it. There's no leaks anywhere. I've hooked the battery up and spun it over. Crank's good. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, this isn't one of our cleanup, take to a show type rigs. This is just a workhorse that needs to go out and get beat a couple times. So come over here to our punch list. Everything's done except for fuel lines, wire up fan, or wiring in general, and fire it up. So shouldn't be an insane amount of wiring to do. I gotta wire the coil, the MSD box, and the sniper and the fans, but everything pretty much wires through the sniper. So I gotta give power and ground to the sniper and ignition hot, which will be my old coil wire. It'll feed the MSD box. The MSD box will feed the coil, and the fans, I just gotta wire up a relay and they get triggered through the sniper also. So shouldn't be a huge deal. Running the fuel line shouldn't be a huge deal. I've been underneath there. I found out where I'm gonna hook it up, where I'm gonna mount everything. It's just a matter of bolting the pump up and hooking the lines up to the tank and running them up here to the sniper. So that shouldn't be a big deal at all. But I've had all I can take for today, so I'm gonna call it a day, come back first thing in the morning, get back on this sucker and get it done. So that's about it for today. I'll see you guys first thing in the morning. All right, it's the next morning, which is Friday now, and today's the day I need to finish this truck so he can use it tomorrow. And for all you younger guys out there watching the channel, I mean, not that I'm super old, I'm only 40, but for all you younger guys, when you put in a good day's work and at the end of the day you're sore and tired and you think you're gonna sleep it off and wake up in the morning feeling great again when you get older, don't work that way. I'm hurting pretty good this morning, crawling around on top of this thing, over this thing, under this thing. But I've been doing this for 25 years and it's taking its toll. So, not crying, I'm gonna keep going, I do every day. But just so you know, when you get older, it doesn't get easier. So, first thing I'm gonna do this morning, I showed you guys I had the fuel pumps and the filters and all that set up already right here. So we got our pre-filter, our pump, our post-filter. I'm gonna get it mounted down on the frame and get my fuel lines run. And then let me double check my list. Yeah, after I get that done, all I should have to do is wire it. I got all the mechanical gauges hooked up inside, they're done. I got the O2 sensor bung done. Haven't put the O2 sensor in yet, but that's just a matter of screwing it in, tightening it down, and plugging it in. Once it starts and we adjust the timing and stuff like that, I got some cleanup work on wires and stuff to do, but that's not a big deal. So I'm gonna get this fuel system knocked out real quick, and then we'll get the wiring going, and hopefully I can knock this out in a couple hours. All right, fuel pump installed, wired in, lines ran. I still got to hook up one return line, but I need one more fitting. My dad's gonna pick it up for me and bring it over. But I'll show you guys. There's the fuel pump and filters all installed. Wirings run up front. It's wired into the Holley system with the wiring that originally came with it. So as you can see on the list where I just crossed off the fuel pump, the only thing I have left to fire this truck is wire up the sniper and the ignition box and the coil through the sniper, and wire in the electric fans, which will be controlled by the sniper. So some wiring. I already got my fuse and my relay for my fuel pump mounted because I wired the fuel pump in, and that way that's all set and done. These two wires here are the main power and ground for the sniper. These two wires here are the main power and ground for our MSD box. I've got, pretty sure this is coil input, but I have to do some research and find out for sure. This is our crank signal or engine speed or whatever you want to call it that goes to the sniper. And then this extremely way too long wire right here plugs into our distributor. So bing bang boom, I gotta hook those power wires up, hook up a accessory hot while cranking, or accessory wire but that stays hot while cranking. So that's going to be our original coil wire from the truck. I got to hook that up to the sniper. It's not a lot, it's just going to take a little bit of time to figure all these systems out. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, if you've seen my older videos, you guys have seen me install I think 3 of these Holley Sniper EFI units, but all the ones that I've done I used an HEI, and you run power, you run a wire to the HEI, you run a wire to the ignition, and that's pretty much all it needs to run. And then of course you got fuel pump and that stuff. But I've never done one with the ignition box and the coil and all that. The instructions do come with an option on how to do that, so I know how to do that. And then I just got to figure out what wiring the ignition box needs, because I don't know exactly how that works. So I'm going to look that up, figure it out. And then for the fans, we're going to put in relays. We'll run, obviously you run constant power through the relay, but the triggers from the Holley are ground triggers. So I'll run constant power through the relay, and then I'll put the ground on a trigger. So when the Holley tells the fans to turn on, they'll excite the relays, turn the power on. So that being said, that's what I got left, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to set the camera up on the tripod. I'll go through the wiring with you guys, and we'll finish this thing up. Okay, I was going to film all the wiring for you guys. Got my camera set up over there and everything, but I have to be in the engine compartment and be able to get back in there. And I can't find a good way to hook the camera up where you guys will be able to see what I'm doing. So I'll probably do a little time lapse or something while I'm wiring it. But I did my research. This connector comes off the Holley, goes to this trigger, crank trigger wire on the MSD box. This red wire out of the MSD box is my 12 volt switch power. This pink wire on my Holley is my 12 volt switch power. So I got to hook those two up to the truck. I've got this wire, which is entirely too long, but I'm afraid to shorten it because I don't want to screw up any signals it sends or whatever, but it goes from the ignition box to the distributor. I've got my 12 volt power and ground here. It goes straight to the battery. Got the 12 volt power and ground here for the Holly. Goes straight to the battery. I got to lengthen those. And then as far as the ignition box and the Holly goes, that's it. So I just got to hook up the power and the grounds, and then I got to hook up the 2 switch powers. The coil's already hooked up. The distributor's already plugged in. All that stuff. So that's good. And then the fans, like I said, shouldn't be too bad. We'll get them wired up, and then we'll be ready to crank this thing up. I know that's what y'all are waiting for. That's definitely what I'm waiting for. Made my list and checked it twice, and if you guys remember the list, the only thing left on there is the big fire it up at the bottom, and that's the point we're at. So my dad's over here. He's gonna hop in the truck and hit the go switch, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. All right, hit it. Crank it. Alright, hit it again. One more time. Well, crank it, crank it. Alright, stop. Okay, the timing was out a little bit. We got it to kick off without backfiring. So now we're going to try it again. Go ahead. Or so we thought. Try it again. Yeah. Alright, well, it's running. I'm gonna do some tweaking on it, try to get it to run a little better to where it'll idle, and then I'll get back with you guys. video of it running good. I got it sitting over there running right now. I had a little issues with it. The air fuel ratios were spiking really high, like 30, 35, 36, 37, even 38, like way up there. So I didn't like it, and this motor had a tune in the Holly that it was tuned on the dyno for this motor. And so I wanted to leave that tune in there because it was all the way it was supposed to be. Well, so I was thinking, okay, maybe I got a bad O2 sensor or something, because I've had that happen before with this system. But I closed up the doors, my dad went home, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to get an O2 sensor or something, whatever. And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try doing the setup wizard on it, let it build its own tune, and see what happens. And as soon as I did the setup wizard, restarted it, fired it up, I was able to set the timing perfect, set the idle perfect, and the air fuel ratios are right around 14, 15 where they should be. And it's just sitting there happy. It's in learning mode. It's idling up, idling down, going through its whole little computer thingamabobber dealy thing that it does. And you can I know you can hear it. It's back there chugging away. But I almost gave up. I even filmed an outro for this video saying that I thought something was wrong with it and I wasn't going to be able to finish it today, but I stuck with it. I didn't give up, and it's running good. It's got a little exhaust leak that I need to fix, and I had a little problem with the electric fan. For some reason the Holly's not triggering the fan, so I had to I just cut the trigger wire and grounded it, and my fans are running, keeping it cool now. So I'll have to figure that out and fix that. But other than that, it's doing good. I'm happy. The owner's on his way over to check it out. He's gonna be happy. So pretty cool. I've worked a lot harder in the last 3 days than I have in a long time. Well, since groundskeeper, basically, not that long, but feels good. I'm tired, I'm sore, but I'm happy as can be. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.